We had the opportunity, my husband and I and a few others, to meet with Bibhu back in New York City years ago, before COVID. And we invited him to come here, not only to see how Utah State University has grown, but also to talk about his experience, his talent, and what he does, and that is fashion design. So this is really exciting that he can come and share his story with us. Just a little bit about him. His cousin Sarita is here tonight, and she came to USU in 1990 to pursue a PhD in economics. She was joined by, as I understand it, her brother, Sandeep, and her cousin, Sanjeev, in 1992, also pursuing graduate degrees in economics. So in 1996, they said, Bibhu, you need to come to Utah State, and you need to pursue a graduate degree in economics. But our faculty noticed that even when he was in the economics classes, he was sketching fashion. And so by making contacts with him, with other faculty members across the university, he was able to develop his skills into what he is today, a New York City fashion designer. In fact, I am wearing one of his creations. And I'll wear another one at the reception after this talk. At 6 o'clock, we'll all adjourn and walk through the courtyard into the Nora Harris Museum of Art. And while there, you are going to see more of his designs, as well as a few live models walking around. And many of these fashion that he will present for you have stories of who has worn them and what they meant to him as they were designed. So I'm now going to invite Nancy Hill, professor of costume design in the theater arts department here at USU, who knew Bibhu when he was a student and helped him launch his career as a fashion designer. So thank you for joining us, and can't wait to hear Bibhu's story.
Good evening. I'd first like to introduce Matthew LaPlatte, who is an author, journalist, radio program host, advocate for educational equity, climate scientist. Does that make you tired? I mean, my gosh. An associate professor of journalistic writing at Utah State University, and he will act as our moderator tonight. Matthew? Here he comes. In the school year of 1996-97, a young man studying economics and fashion merchandising came into my costume shop and applied for a costume construction work-study job. I asked him if he could sew, and he assured me he could. I likely showed him the sketches of the 17th century costumes we were constructing for a production of Cyrano de Bergerac that I had designed. Not only could he sew, he was completely game for the outsized skirts and the lace-drenched bodices of that era. Bibhu Mohapatra showed a passion for the specialized construction and detailed finishing of the garments he tackled, frequently evoking the instruction and influence he had received from his mother in India. He was a pleasant, energetic, industrious member of the costume construction team. I had lost track of Bibhu, but got reconnected about 3 years ago. I was utterly delighted that his dream of fashion school and a career in fashion had come to fruition. The idea of him coming back to USU came up at that time, but the plague disrupted those plans. Now, with a sense of safety on the horizon, we are welcoming and celebrating that reconnection. Please welcome Bibhu Mohapatra back to Utah State University.
This is going to be fun. Oh. You are back on campus for the first time in almost a quarter century.
Almost, yes.
What immediately felt familiar about this place?
Well, thank you, Matthew. Thank you, USU. Thank you, President Crockett and Dane and Adrian, everyone, for bringing me back here. So it seemed like I've been away for a long time, but when I landed here, it seemed like I was just here yesterday. And it feels good to be back. And happy to say that I'm an Aggie. And hi, Aggies. So it feels really good, really good.
Was there anything that jumped out at you that had really changed, that you couldn't place quite?
Yeah, there's some beautiful developments around campus, but I could still see the buildings where I had my first classes and where I got my first job, the Old Main, the Quad, the blue skies and the majestic mountains. All those things are, we plan to drive through the canyons tomorrow morning, I believe. But I'm very happy that I have some of my family members who are also Aggies, Sarita and Sanjeev. They are also here. My partner, my husband, Bobby Beard, is here. My friend Halal is here. There are and my professors, some of my professors, advisors. So this feels good.
You mentioned your first job, and everybody here knows now that you worked in the costume shop, but you had a different first job when you first got here.
Yes, which lasted for 9 months, and I would go to the job board every morning because I was told by my cousin Sarita, that's what you do. And there was 2 different colors of postings, and the pink one was supposed to be for international students, and I thought I could apply. I called Sarita, I think I got a position that I could apply for. So she asked me, what is it? What is it for? Where is it? I said, it's at the University Inn, and I'm going for it. She's like, okay, go, but what is the position? I said, I don't quite know. It says custodial. So I go, and I had nice couple of meetings, and thought that I would have a computer, because I was doing data entry job, and so then I was introduced to the brilliant, wonderful Jay, who was my supervisor, and he took me to the wonderful closet and handed me a squeezy. That gave me my paycheck, first paycheck here, fed me. Some of it I actually saved to contribute towards my tuition, and it was possible. So 9 months.
Let me take a step back, because I want to talk about your boyhood in India. You started sewing with your mother's old saris, and I understand tablecloths, whatever you could get, bed sheets, whatever you could get your hands on. Yeah. When did you start connecting that to a dream about what you wanted to do with your life?
See, I had a very happy childhood, as I always say, and a lot of fun, a lot of beautiful craft around, and started with my mother's few but beautiful saris she had, and But the stories she would tell about her childhood and how she would love to do embroidery, but she was limited to 4 colors of thread. And so there was one thing that she had, which was a flower vase with flowers, and the vase was the same color of one of the flowers. So I would make fun of her, like, Mom, why is the flower vase the same color as the flowers? She's like, that's all the colors I had. But that I still have it in my studio framed. So it was a happy childhood, and she taught me how to sew when I was 12 or 13 years old, and encouraged me. But growing up in Odisha, I didn't know what's really the path if I followed that passion. So I continued my studies, and then my brother Bijoy, he went to Mumbai, then Bombay, to art school, and he would bring me magazines where I would read about, fashion designs. And India had sort of fashion designers coming up, and I would read about them, and some of them I call them my friends now. So I would figure out that, this is how you make a living from what you do. And so, but still I didn't know how to get myself professionally trained. And then the seed was planted by, again, my cousin Sarita. She's like, you need to come to America and come for a master's degree, and then you'll figure it out. So,
but even then, you weren't initially studying fashion. You were
No?
studying economics.
Yeah, I got a bachelor's in economics from India, and then I applied here for a master's program in economics, and that's how I met Dr. Biswas and Dr. Israelson, 2 of my professors, and that was the first semester, and within that, I transferred to study fashion merchandising, and that was the beginning of the shift.
And that was, at some point, you transitioned from custodial work to working in the costume shop?
Yes, that was incredible, an incredible opportunity to make things, and then those ended up on stage, and I'll always be grateful to Nancy and her team and to support me through. And those images actually became a part of my portfolio when I was applying at FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology in New York. So it allowed me to create things that I could include and feel proud enough to be including in my application, and also gave me the confidence to be able to put my very young work out there. But then I had other sort of research assistance job, which was more computer related, and my professor Lou Anderson and Joanne Wilson, I hope they're here. They gave me projects that I worked on, and I think I did an okay job because I was getting more jobs. So it was possible to pass out from here with pretty good grades, and I was ready to go to New York.
One of the things that you did, you mentioned this, you did data entry. And maybe, I think, many people would say, that couldn't be further apart from fashion. But there's this meticulousness, this accuracy, detail-orientedness, that there's a connection there.
There's a connection, and also being an Asian, parents tell you, it doesn't matter if you flunk in any other subject, but math you have to do well. So that was, I'm not brilliant like with numbers like my cousins here, but I was okay. And but it's that precision, thinking about accuracy, and because it's very technical. When you design, when I design, I put on my technical hat and really understand three-dimensionally how, because we work with all different body types, and we want to make sure that it's right. And so it comes in handy.
You just mentioned being Asian, and I'm thinking about being a young man of color, a young gay man at Utah State University 30 years ago. What were the challenges that you faced here?
I didn't really feel any challenges. I knew I was a minority, in some cases sort of double minority. But what was incredible about being in the graduate program and the sort of family that Sarita had put together, that are her friends, they were pretty international. They're from different cultures, and they all had different viewpoints and brilliant minds. And so I also found in my classes there are a lot of local students, but there are a lot of out-of-country students. So it was pretty, I felt pretty welcomed by that. But there are certain aspects of my life I sort of put away. I was very focused, and I just focused on that and did my work, because it was a great opportunity that I had, that I was here finally, and this opportunity that I have. It's a little bit of a sort of immigrant mindset, that you get an opportunity, you make sure you do well and do justice. So I never felt that I was an outsider here, and I'm really grateful for that.
There was some kind of a shift in you while you were here, because you had, like you said, you came to study economics. You had this dream of fashion. You didn't know how to reach it. But by the end of your time here, which was relatively brief, you knew you were headed to New York. You were headed to FIT. What was the shift? When do you know? Was there a moment?
A few moments, and a lot of encouragement from friends and family. Some of them are here. It was, coming here was sort of easy, but going to New York from here was a big deal for me, because everyone has an idea about New York. I didn't even have that. I didn't know anyone. But I had heard stories of some students from here going and doing something in New York, but I had never met them. But that was enough. That was pretty good, that, okay, I could also do that. And lot of conversations with my friends and family members to make that shift. Even after I got accepted into FIT, I was questioning sometimes, like, is this the path I'm going to go? Because once I go, I have to make it happen. So the shift happened one time. My advisor, Jeanette Arbuthnot, who sadly passed away last year, she saw my book, and she had conversations with Sarita about what my real passion was. And so she saw my book almost by accident, and next day she gave me 2 brochures, one from Parsons School of Design and other one from FIT. She's like, find out about them and you're going there. I'm like, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
She was like that, and I really miss her. I wish she was here. But yes, that's the real beginning of the actual planning.
You hadn't been in New York for very long when you met Bobby. What did you need in a partner that you found in him at that time?
Oh, I didn't know much. It just happened, and it was not so much about looking for someone in a partner or something in a partner. It's about really finding myself and really completing that part of myself and accepting myself. And being in New York, being at that school, and meeting my friends, and seeing based on where they were from, it was even more diverse because it's New York, right? So they would talk about their background, their lifestyle, their orientation. It was all open out there, and so I was sort of, that didn't happen so much here, but there it was out there on your face. So yeah, I met Bobby end of 1999, and we realized that we have a lot of friends in common, him being an artist. And it's, you meet people and they leave something with you. And it was that. And I didn't know how one's supposed to feel. I was not in a relationship ever. And this was the first time I felt like that. So I held on to that feeling. And he's an artist and he's a nomad. He was already planned to go for a couple of months to South Africa for the New Year's. But I had Sanjeev, my cousin, who was already in New Jersey working for AT&T. So I was basically living with him, and he was taking care of me. And then one night I realized that, okay, I need to share this with my loved ones. And I arrived there. I did not plan it. And late one night, I called up Sandeep, my cousin. He was at UC Davis by then. I told him, and he's like, okay, I'll call you back. He hangs up. And then my phone rings. There are like 5 of them on the other end. all Sanjeev, Sarita, my brother. And so I felt that I was ready to share that with them, and I was not worried about the outcome so much about. I was so happy about that I had arrived at that place, that I was being truthful to myself, and that someone wonderful I have met that I could share. So even on that, I had to figure out a lot because I didn't know what were the norms, right? Remember saving like $100 before he left for Cape Town to have the courage to invite him to dinner, and hoping that he won't order more than one drink. And I just left that restaurant like unscathed by the skin of my teeth. The bill was like, with tip, it was around $100. So I'm grateful for that.
What did he order?
We ordered like daily double lobsters, which were $29. The mathematical mind, I just figured out because there was a sign outside. It says daily double, $29.99. So 2 lobsters with 4 sides. So he couldn't possibly order more food. So that's $60, and then glass of wine like me, 10, and so that leaves enough for the tip. So he loves his drinks, but he just contained himself with 1 glass of wine. So we were good.
You said you were figuring out how to be honest, and this has been a theme in your work, in your life, is this almost brutal kind of honesty that you take with your work and with your clients and the people that you design for. But we had mentioned earlier today that leaves people very vulnerable when they're being honest like that, when they're living their life like that. And it's scary. It can be, right?
It can be, because if you're a creative individual, or if you have an analytic mind, you want to share your work, right? Professors publish their work, and you want to make sure you be truthful, and you want to be honest with your work, no matter what it is. If you're a writer, when you publish your book, you leave it out there for people to read and critique, judge, appreciate. It's the same thing, and it's a privilege to be in that spot, to be able to create something and feel confident enough to share it, and then get the feedback and learn from it. Yes, it used to be that, if some critic says after a collection, we could have done without that extra feather trim on that thing. It's like kitchen sink in there. But that's right. That helped me how to really look at my work from a different perspective. So, yeah, read my latest review for the collection that we did. We got called out for many things. As we are having a trunk show at Saks Fifth Avenue flagship store in New York on Fifth Avenue. The couple of things that I was called out for were the best hits I hear that been selling. So you never know. Thinking back, should I have not put that on the runway? Maybe not. Maybe I should have sort of held back just to sell. Because when you put a collection together and send it on the runway, you're telling a story within 10 minutes. And everything matters, like what comes after what, and how the colors are sort of harmoniously flowing through. And it's a 10 minutes of journey that you take the audience from the beginning to the end, and they have your show notes that they read, which is a paragraph. So they need to be transported to that world, wherever you want to. But if there is some sort of unevenness, or like you're listening to the performance of a musical note, if it's out of note, you hear it and you can point it out. You don't have to be a musician for that. So that's how I feel it. So critics are good. I think in the 12 years, I have grown a very thick skin. So
when you first got to New York, and after FIT, you went to work for Halston and Jay Mendel, and then at some point you you had this impulse, this desire to strike out on your own, to start your own label. How scary was it for you to take that leap, and also how necessary? Like, what do you feel it very deeply, I assume?
It was always sort of that spectrum of my vision or the dream that, sure, I would love to walk into a store and I see a name of a well-known brand like Ralph Lauren, or these are brands that I revere, the designers I revere. So yes, sure, somewhere in the corner of my mind, I sort of wanted to see my name on a piece of clothing, right? But I knew that I had to pay my dues and work for a brand. So because I was at FIT for 1 year, it was an accelerated program. But I knew that I would have to have some experience if I needed to get a job, because the money that I had, the loan that I taken, was just finishing like a week after my graduation. It was time to move out of the dorms. So what did I do is, after 2 months starting there, I printed out like 15 of my resumes, and I walked on 7th Avenue. And on 7th Avenue, between 34th and 40th Street, there are all these buildings that are famous for housing this big brand. So I would stand on the lobby, and it's like, okay, Halston, 7th floor, Calvin Klein, 8th floor. So I would go and drop off my resume, like I always say, like Chinese food menu. And I was, I didn't feel any fear. I just gave it to them, and some looked at me strangely. But I got a couple of calls, and one of them was Halston. Halston's, it was long after he was gone. But I got a job there, and I worked from, I would say, 5 to 11 every night, and I really learned a lot. And then I finished my school, and I got the Critics Award for my design, and then I got a job with J. Mendel. So that's how it all started. But I've been very lucky, timing-wise. So I never had to sort of worry about, like, okay, I have a 3 months of gap and I don't have money to feed me. I would have ended up with Sanjeev anyway. So he was there. Like, I had all these safety nets. I talked about. Sarita was here, and my brother was in Atlanta. Sanjeev was in New Jersey. So it helped me think freely about my next steps always.
What was the point that you knew, after striking out at your own, starting your own label, you had won some awards, but what's the point that you knew, like, oh, it's going to be okay, or are you there yet?
No, I feel confident in many ways, but I think we have a lot of work to do collectively, me and my team, we've seen some really difficult days as we build the business and build the brand. We have built a brand, but there's a lot more we have to do, because the landscape has changed since we started the brand, and we're sort of making ourselves able to be ready for all those changes, because our target audience from 12 years ago has changed. We have to focus on who's the next group, and are we speaking the same language? Are we using the same tools as the new group of consumer who'd be looking for our product? So we are constantly evolving, trying to evolve. So there's a lot more work has to be done, and we have plans to take the brand to India. That's where I was born and raised. So we have a good following there, but we're not there. By design, we haven't sort of sent our product. Well, most of our clients from India, they travel to the Middle East or come to New York, they shop for our clothes. But we're working on a strategy to take the brand to India and create a line for the Indian consumer and making it a little more accessible, while the premium collection still sort of sold to exclusive stores and to direct to consumers. So there's a lot more work has to be done.
Yeah, I imagine you must feel, with that move in particular, that it's really right, that you're getting it right when you make that move and you open the line in India.
Yeah, it's like doing we have made so many mistakes, and I always say, like, my mistakes are close to me than my successes, and so India, taking the brand to India, I take it very seriously, and I want to make sure that that's one chance that we get, and we want to make sure we plan it properly. We have the right partners who can be on the same vehicle and same vision to make it a success. I don't want to just prematurely take the brand and try it out. That's not an option.
And this isn't just a business move, right? This is like will it feel like a homecoming? Will it?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes. Taking my brand to there. We sell my fine jewelry in India.
This is Artemis, right?
Artemis in collaboration with De Beers for Overmark. But even that has to be sort of expanded on. So as we speak, we're reevaluating our strategy for that as well.
Do you just mentioned that your failures are closer to you than your successes. Is there one that nags at you more than the others?
Yeah, absolutely. In 2017, we had some setbacks. A few things happened in the business. Some are trust related. Some are just the way things were. We needed to shed some debt, and we needed to restructure the company. But I knew that we have a brand. We have created a brand that is honest. That's when it came about, and we had a statement that we made out to the industry, and we continued on, and we restructured, and we emerged out of it. But it was not an easy decision, So, but I know not to make those kind of mistakes in this new chapter of my brand, and it's been amazing since then.
How do you process, when you think about your own story, how do you think about this journey from this kid in India to working in New York to having your own line, but not just having your own line, not just having your name, but having your name on dresses and dressing people who everybody's heard of, right? I mean, like you've dressed Jennifer Lopez,
Yes.
Priyanka Chopra, Michelle Obama. Do you just wake up some nights and just go, what the heck?
Well, sometimes those pinching moments come, but it's with a lot of blessing, lot of guidance from people, my loved ones, and that's invaluable to me. And the things that my parents gave me, some basics. 1999, when I was leaving India, my flight was from Calcutta to JFK, then to Salt Lake City, and I had never been in an airplane, and so that's a whole separate set of anxiety. But my dad, as we were going to the airport, Dad said, look, I have to tell you something. You always have to be grateful. You try to remember those people, even if they have said a word of kindness or have done something, you try not to forget them and don't leave them behind. And because minute you do that, you're done. So my mother was like, why are you telling this kid he's just leaving? His dad's like, that's what worked for me. And you'll probably not be able to reciprocate the same way, but you remember them. And so those are some of the things tools that they gave me. And I can never be like my father, who was an amazing man, but I try to live by that. But fast forward to checking in at Calcutta airport, I had two massive suitcases. One is food and the other one is my clothes. And I go and I'm so anxious. I'm at the counter. My parents were standing there, and she gave me the boarding card. And then I was so caught up with leaving my family for leaving India. And I went, said goodbye again, and I left. The agent said, just take those escalator and just wait there. So I'm there. I got into the airplane, sat down, I had a nice seat, and then I realized that, oh my God, I left my suitcases there I didn't know that, they took the suitcases and put it on those belts and there's go. So then I asked one of the flight attendants, I think I left my suitcases at the check-in counter. So they said, no, it's usually they take it. So then I didn't trust her. So then I saw, it was British Airways, then there was this Indian flight attendant wearing the same fabric sari made out of the uniform fabric for British Airways then. So she came and I asked her in Hindi, like, do you know my suitcases made it to the plane? They're like, yes, let me see your boarding card, and there are 2 tickets, he's assured me. So I was just praying. The minute I reached JFK, I literally hugged my suitcase. I was so worried. But I was naive. There was a lot of things new for me, but I was told how to make a collect call when I land in JFK. So all those things are sort of new things, and I try to remember.
A collect call. The world has changed a lot.
I don't know how you do the collect call. And my brother said, just make sure you buy something and make sure they give you quarters, and then you put that in the machine, and you do this. So I was able to connect with my brother, and then he communicated to Sarita here that, okay, cargo is coming, come pick him up. So.
Speaking of the world changing so much, the fashion world is changing. Sometimes very quickly, sometimes in other ways very slowly. One of the ways it's changing that you are very passionate about is that it's changing to embrace greater cultural diversity, racial diversity, body type diversity. This seems like a really exciting and important time to be doing the work.
Yes, and it's being talked about a lot. And I did sit down and looked at my previous castings, or when I started building my team, they have always been by default diverse. And even the smallest team, I had people of color from different cultures, and because they always brought something new to the discussion table. But when I started putting my collections out there and having models representing my work, or me collaborating with artists or actors or individuals, it definitely adds to my vocabulary, the way my brand DNA is to have that diverse, have that inclusivity message always. And it's important to me, but I would never call my casting agent that, oh, just make sure I have a couple of models of color and a couple of models of Asian. No, I wanted always to have that spectrum representing my work as much. That means you had to have a bigger budget too. So I always made sure that happened. And it's important to me in this day and age, my brand ambassadors, my people who support my brand, if they're visible, if they're diverse, it's in line with the DNA of my brand that I'm trying to build.
And you play a role in that too, right? I mean, there's some kid out there who's wants to design, who's probably cutting up his mother's saris right now.
I hope the mothers are not too upset. That's why I took on mentorship as much as internship is what we offer a lot, and we put them through every single thing. Meaning, if they're designers, they think that, oh, I'll just sit there and sketch. Like, no, you got to understand the fabrics, you get to cut, you get to make patterns. So we force them into going through, and so by the time they finish their internship, they already know all the processes. They know how to talk to a pattern maker, for example. Because if you're a designer, you don't know how to communicate your ideas to the person who makes the patterns for you, it won't happen. So I do that. But more and more, I try to get involved in programs that includes mentorship, that includes young students and young entrepreneurs that are about to go into businesses or professionals who are about to start a job. I try to talk to them and prepare them with my experiences. I'm not a genius or anything, but what I have is my experience, and I share that with them, and I share the good things that they know about, and also things that didn't work out quite well for me, which I know about, and I share them with that. And I think I prepare them for that, and I give them that confidence, hopefully, to take risks, but smart and educated and calculated ones.
To be able to do that, to be able to think about your future that way, you have to be able to visualize that. And I wanted to go back to this decision to apply to FIT. And there's a question on the application that asked you to visualize something.
Oh.
Can you talk about that?
Yes, it was. I got a 8-part home design test from Fashion Syrup Technology in Logan, and all parts were fine because thanks to my professors, they called up their friends in the fine art department to allow me to sit the back of the class to take drawing classes and sharpen my pencil. And so I put together an okay portfolio, but the last section was to design something for the First Lady. And that's where I sort of stopped. I didn't know what to do. Hillary Clinton was the First Lady, and it meant a lot. Like, just to dress a First Lady, I knew that it means about the culture, it's about the power, the positions he has as the partner of the president. So I didn't want to do anything ridiculous, and I wanted to just stay within the parameters of acceptability. I'm sure I spoke to many friends that are here, but I put it through, and I knew if I didn't make it, it would be because of that, but I did make it. So.
And then we fast forward a few decades, and this thing that you felt like you were going to fail at, this hypothetical dressing of the First Lady, it's not hypothetical anymore. You told Michelle Obama this story.
I have, I was able to tell her at the, at the last party, the farewell party, when President Trump had won and the Obamas were leaving, and I was invited, Bobby and I were invited to the White House to that party, and we didn't know what to expect. We were dressed up in suits and stuff, but everyone was very relaxed, and our phones were checked in. So, but she so nicely took me to introduce me to her mother and her brother, and then I had that moment to tell her, because previously every time I've been there, it's always guarded with like security and everything, but this one was a party at her house. So she was holding my hands, and I told her this story that, look, when I was applying for my fashion school, this was one of the challenges, and thank you for making my American dream come true, that I'm standing here holding a hand in your house, and that I was able to dress one of the first ladies many times, and I owe her, I thanked her a lot, and I was very grateful, and she was very moved, and I'll never forget that moment. But I also told myself that this is the America I came to, and this is where you can work hard and you believe in yourself, and as long as you have the tools to sort of turn a difficult corner or get out of that ditch and stay committed to your passion, I think it can happen. But I also think I'm very lucky to have met people who sort of guided me through. So, but that was a fun and funny moment, and I was able to share with her.
I think we have time for a few questions. You want to take a few questions from the
Sure.
audience? I think, is there a microphone going around, I thought? Maybe not. You can shout. Stand up and shout.
What was it like being the queen? And was it as Michelle as well, or how did that go?
So the question was what it was like meeting the Queen.
Well, I said this yesterday, that both know how to throw a good party. But it was amazing to meet her and be in her world, in her house. As I was standing there, I was still trying to figure out, why me? Why am I here? There were like 100 or 120 guests in that massive reception area in the Buckingham Palace. I was introduced to her in a receiving line. She was very she was briefed that, okay, here is a designer next, and lives in New York and from India. So she asked me a few questions, and I moved on to be greeted by Prince Philip. And then after like 30 minutes, she was standing in front of me with the black glove is off and with a glass of champagne. She asked me a few follow-up questions, like where exactly I was from near Calcutta, and she told me I should check out some of the miniature paintings that were never been seen before. It was amazing, and I was very fortunate to have met her and share my story with her. And yes, it looks exactly like her picture in the pound sterling bills, and it was quite something.
Were her corgis there? Were the dogs there?
No dogs, but she had. It was so. I mean, I guess she does this all the time. She's moving about in the room with her, and she goes to someone and talks to them. But if someone approaches her, she would have this well-dressed, black-tied people who would be like mingling amongst the groups, but they are her bodyguards. So they would come and sort of tell you, like, don't approach her, she will come. But it's all figured out, and it was great.
You have another question? Right in the middle. The question is, where is fashion going? What's the future? That's big.
It's a big, but I think individuality. I think celebrating individuality has never been more important than today, and I think expressing who we are instead of covering ourselves to make ourselves into someone else, giving, as a designer, giving that confidence to my audience is my focus, and I think collectively that has been the industry's focus. I think owning our bodies and our history, our heritage is the key, and we don't have to sort of cover ourselves. I think we just have to express ourselves the best version we possible, and I think fashion as an industry, as a tool, gives that option, and we just have to find it and make it our own. I think that's the focus.
One of the people that you've dressed who has been very influential in the recent years in this idea of owning our bodies is Jamil.
Jamil, yeah.
That's what do you try to do when you work with someone like that who has this advocacy?
In that case, I knew she was an activist. She was all against body shaming, and I'd never met her, but I was working through her people, and we just had to make sure that we gave her a lot of options, and she had to pick. There were stylists for this cover shoot, but she was making the decision what looks good on her that doesn't represent her in a different package. She needed to be who she was, and she picked a oversized fuchsia pink satin sort of track pants and a blazer, double-breasted blazer, and it was shot on an iPhone, and she didn't want any super high-tech digital camera or any retouching. So it was not an iPhone, it was a cell phone camera, and it was shot on a cell phone, no retouching, and it went from the camera to the printers, and she wanted to represent that. That said something about her, so it was cool and refreshing.
Would you have dressed her in that? I mean, like, you gave her a lot of choices, but
yeah,
do you think
she looked great? Yeah. She knew exactly. She was being herself, and it seemed right. They sent me some videos of her. She was on top of some building in LA, and there's a lot of wind, and it looked pretty scary, but she was standing on a ledge, and they shot her with this phone. So,
you have another question right here?
family members first, and then lot of friends who sort of believed in me. My sister Lopa, who was my first sort of, I would make all these things, and she was too kind to sort of wear them to sort of keep my encouragement, give me encouragement. She said, like, is it okay if I wear them at home? Don't ask me to go out. So that went on for a few years, and because she was basically wearing the bed sheets or old saris, and I was not very good then. And so then a cousin was getting married. She was probably 15, or no, she was 16. My mom gave me some money. Go, okay, buy some actual fabric, design something for your sister so that she can wear to this reception. And I remember making, it was a black and gold cotton brocade and then a beautiful yellow chiffon. And I made this outfit for her. I was there at this big hall like this, standing, and then she was late. And she and my brother Bijoy, they both came in, and she walked into that room, and she's a very, she's beautiful, she's confident, but she has this quiet energy about her. She's not on your face. But she walks into this, I remember, she's 16 years old, but she wears this outfit and walks in with such confidence, breezes through and greets people. That stayed with me. That something about that picture, I can spell it out now, but then I couldn't, but felt like, okay, she felt confident enough to present herself like that. And I think she still has that piece of clothing. So that gave me assurance. Then Sarita, when she was going back to India, she would give me money to buy fabric and make clothes for her, and I think she wore some of them. Some of them are pretty scary. But, some of those clothes I also shot at the photography department here to include in my portfolio. So these are stages, and all these people contributed to that, for me to be in that mindset that, okay, you know what, I can give it a try. I can take it to the next level. So I'm not alone in this. I have a whole village to take with me to give credit to.
We have time for one more question, I think, right in the middle.
Yes, I mean, like any other creative field, you can make it happen, but you just have to make sure that that's exactly what you want. And fashion as a business is a whole different ball game, right? We see all these runway shows, we see all these glamorous photo shoots, but that's only the 10% of it. There's 90% of that whole thing is very grueling hard work. And so I think gaining experience and being trained under professionals is one way to go about it. And I always advise people that I get to talk to that please work for someone or some brand and really understand what is it that you really love. Because there are many parts to this, be it a designer, be it a draper, be it a cutter, or be it a shower, or be it a stylist, be a stylist. So I think you have to believe in yourself and hold on to that belief throughout, because there will be times where you would question, is this the right thing? Is it the right thing? And you have to have that conviction strong enough to get you over that hump. I think these days we have internet, everything is around. There are so many schools offering incredible programs. It doesn't always have to be New York. There are many amazing schools on the West Coast, and even programs here that prep you for the next educational goal for you. So, but really paying attention to the individuals and have that role model, and hopefully you get to communicate and contact with them. DMs are pretty good. You'll be very surprised. Don't be shy about sending DMs to people that you admire. A lot of them respond. Virgil Abloh, who just passed away because of some rare cancer in the heart condition. Virgil, who I had the opportunity of meeting once, so he became the designer for Louis Vuitton, and he had his own line, Off-White. I know some people firsthand that they just reached out to him, and he made sure that he had all these programs to give back, to embrace different communities all over the world. So Virgil was very low-key, but he would respond to every single DM on his Instagram or Twitter and make sure that someone from his team connects and responds to that individual. So, and I think there are a lot more people like that. So if you have a role model, try to reach out to them. And we have the tools now, and you'll be surprised. You will hear from them, and try to learn from those individuals.
You just say that, but you're so many people's role model here. They're all going to reach out to you now.
Please, please, and I a lot of the times especially if I can't sleep in the middle of the night, I go into and on Instagram those messages go into a sort of a section in the DM that says like, do you really want to open these? I'm like, yes. So I go in and there'll be a lot of backlog, and a lot of the times even a lot of our clients reach out to us like that too. They would send a screenshot of something that they saw in a magazine. They would want to, so I forward that to the right someone in my team to deal with that. But I do respond to a lot of them. So I think it's about connecting with people, because we can only go as far as our community goes, right? So, and we all have a certain amount of time. We can work till we drop, but within that time, it seems like a long time, but it's not. Here I'm sitting, I'm 50 years old. I have so many things to do, and every day I'm learning. But within that, if I can be of any help, or if I can share my experience and it opens some window for someone, I'm all for that.
We're just about out of time, but our night is not over. We would love for all of you to join us next door at the Nora Eccles Harrison Museum of Art to see fashion on exhibit with live models. If you're not able to get into the museum because it's full, I have some really good news for you. It is a beautiful evening in Logan. So if you want to just wait outside, the museum staff will let you in as people come out. But you can also come back to the museum during its open hours. This exhibit will be on view through Saturday, April 2. My friends, please join me in thanking Bibhu Mohapatra.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Nice job. Really good job.
Thank you. Thank you.